time for us to transition to why most of you came here today. And I don't know if you guys want to do individual or if you want, we have an hour, so I was going to start with Miss Debbie Georgatos. Can we talk? Can we talk today, Debbie? Debbie Georgatos is our RNC committee woman, and Dr. Robin Armstrong is our RNC committee man. I can't think of who better to have at our inaugural address and kickoff meeting than the leaders of our state at the RNC. So with that, I'm going to welcome Debbie Georgatos.
Thank you very much, Marcia. I was going to make a joke about how the only mistake Marcia made today was she let me have the microphone first, because I do talk about politics a lot. But on a serious, I'll just give all of you, I know actually quite a few of you, but for those I don't know, I'll quickly introduce myself. My name is Debbie Georgatos, and I do represent Texas on the Republican National Committee. Was elected last May, so I'm just starting a 4-year term. I consider it providential. It's a 4-year term that actually overlaps President Trump's second term, so I'm just very blessed. I'm very excited and blessed about it, and I want to tell you more about that in a little while, about things happening during his this second term of his. And by background, I'm a lawyer. My husband and I, okay, don't pick me up. We lived in California many years, and I was a lawyer out there. I represented businesses in employment disputes, so I'm a litigator. But we've been in Texas 25 years. We arrived, and about 2 weeks later, thought, I will never leave. I love this place. We just love living here. So we're Texans. Our kids, went to school here and are out of the house now. So that's a quick background. The other background thing to mention, I host a talk show called America Can We Talk? And actually ties to part of what we're going to be talking about today. I've done it for 10 years, actually almost 11 years now, and there's a flyer on I tried to hand out that looks like this, and there's some more up there. And the reason I wanted you to know about it is the only reason I do this talk show is to talk about saving America. Other than that, I don't really, that's pretty much all I talk about. I have guests. We talk about the issues facing America. I do interviews with people who are thought leaders in various issues, and I do a lot of commentary. And it's always tying back to America's unique and extraordinary greatness and how it's every generation's job to preserve the country. That is our job as patriots in this era. And so the two things specifically about the show that relate to Robin as well. So on the first Tuesday of the month, it's at 3 p.m., the first Tuesday of the month, Robin joins me. He's actually not in studio, he's in his home or office in Galveston, but we do RNC reports, so that's always first Tuesday of the month. We run through the issues RNC is working on, and then the second thing is right after that, so that's 3 o'clock on the first Tuesday. At 4 o'clock on the first Tuesday, we've launched an RNC monthly call. So on this happy handout, it takes you right to our website, americacanwetalk.org, and you can find everything you need there to especially in the blog section, you can learn how to join our call, you can learn how to watch the show. I just think a lot of spreading the good news about what America is and what the Republican Party stands for, it really helps to be informed on the issues and to be able to be excited and talk about them in a really in a positive, upbeat, persuasive way. So that's my very quick background. And I wanted to ask you, and assume everyone here either watch live or listen later to Donald Trump's speech. Did you guys listen to his speech? Yeah, awesome. Well, I was going to tell you a couple of things I thought about that. I am going to get to some issues in the Texas legislature. In fact, I was going to say when I started, I want to talk about MAGA, I want to talk about MEGA, M-E-G-A, and then MESA. Those are my three things, MAGA, MEGA, MESA. But back to Donald Trump. A couple things I wanted to say about that. He came to our party, came to our country at a time when the left in this country is so far off the American playing field, so out of touch with the foundational promises of America, what are recited in the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution. The left has become, they have drifted into and just become Marxist and very strongly advocating for centralized power. They have been abusive of our rights in this country, and I'm saying all that to lead up to Donald Trump is not, to say the least, the traditional kind of candidate that all of us probably saw over the years. When he ran in 2015, probably a lot of us were Ted Cruz supporters because he's our guy, he's a Texan. But Donald Trump, I truly believe, came to power in America at a time we needed our Republican Party to be a little more bold, a little more blunt, and really willing to call out who and what the left is and what they stand for in America today. So I think he's done that. And then for the 4 years when he wasn't in office, when we had the Biden-Harris occupation of the White House, we had those 4 years, which were actually turned out to be a blessing for us, because everyone in America could see, oh, this is what the left will do if you give them power. They will actually abandon the border. They will do great damage to our military. They will spend out of control. They will attack families. I mean, the litany of things they've done, things I talk about in my show a lot, it caused a lot of Americans to say, you know, I used to think maybe the Democrats were nice, or they were, you know, they gave more money to poor people or some silly thing. But what actually they realized is that Democrats are anti-American, and among many important ways, willing to surrender America's sovereignty to the globalist mindset. So it gave America kind of a chance to reassess where the parties are today. On Donald Trump, I want to hit 3 things to say about him. Number 1 is that he uses the expression, and I think it's really good for all of us. We're trying to get people involved in the party and to care about the party. He uses the expression common sense, and he added on, I think he said these words during the speech, but it's a common sense revolution. We are really bringing America back to normalcy. And when people say, well, you know, Trump is far right, or his followers are far right, this is common sense, mainstream, apple pie America is what he's bringing back. It's only because of how radical the left is that he's painted that way. So common sense revolution is a really good term that kind of captures a lot of what he's doing. And the second one I was going to mention is about wokeism, which is going to lead me to tell you. So this is MAGA, this is the MAGA part of my remarks. Mega, I'll get to in a moment, but there was he used during the talk, during his speech, which was so well received by almost everyone except the Democrats, but he said something about wokeism, and my assistant, Kristen, who's amazing, she's texting during it, and she created this little meme, Cemetery of Wokeism. And she actually has like a grave plot, and we have to put a whole bunch of issues, a whole bunch of things the left is doing, just in the trash heap, to use Reagan's expression, trash heap of history. What they have done on so many issues, wrong. So we're not going to negotiate every little, nuanced change, what has to happen. Much what the left is doing to our country and to the American people is just wrong. And so this idea of just cemetery wokeism, all that goes, as Reagan said, the trash heap of history. And the third thing I want to say about Trump, as Republicans, he is, when he first came along in 2015, okay, so if you already think I'm questionable because I practice law in California, I also grew up in New York. I'll just get that out. I grew up in New York, and Donald Trump's manner of speaking doesn't bother me at all. He's entertaining. He's who he is. He's very authentic. He doesn't put on airs. He's who he is. But what he has done for America, and what I hope all of us can embrace, is this idea that Donald Trump, when he ran in 2015, he restored the feeling and the way he spoke that he's telling people America is a good country. You've been learning bad things about America in public schools. You've had the founders denigrated. You've had people talking about America as systemically racist and all these other accusations that came from the radical left. And Trump basically, he made people feel, number one, America's a great country, and the American people are good people. And the average Joe, lunch pail guy, the average Joe who maybe didn't even vote, listened to him and said, yeah, how come the left has been so critical of America? This is terrible. And so he made people realize again, America's a great country, and the people are good people, and he restored a pride in what it means to be American. So moving forward, my last point about Trump is, when he said America first, which I prefer that expression a little bit to MAGA, although I'm fine with MAGA, but this Make America Great Again helped people understand what the left had done to America, called out the harm left has done to our education, our culture, our societies, just everything they've done in this country. So he's talking about make America great again, but he also used the expression America first. And America first should be like, duh, I mean, you're the president. You don't want America to be first. I mean, every other country, it is a job of the leader of every country to look out for the interests of your people. So the America first mindset should not go away when the Trump term ends. It should be the Republican rallying cry. Of course we stand for America. Our party's values are actually, they are the outgrowth of the founding ideas of America. The Republican Party is America. And the left, they're Cuba or something. They're way off track. So I think there's an importance about just retaining that. Trump came along to wake us up to realize what the left had done and to make this love for America. So I'm very, very grateful for what he's done about that. I'm not even watching my time. I can see a clock. Okay, and then so that was MAGA. I want to turn to MEGA for a minute. I'm going to get to the Texas legislature too, but so some of you may have seen, I think some of you maybe get my newsletter. Now on the handout, you can sign up if you'd like to get a newsletter. So in January, the last week of January, there was a meeting in Brussels, Belgium, at the European Parliament. And the point of the meeting was, there's a group of leaders in all 26 member countries of the European Union. These leaders made a new political party, ECR, European Conservatives and Reformists. And these people love Donald Trump. And they love the MAGA message. So they had a big conference in Brussels called MEGA, Make Europe Great Again. And it was so exciting, so anyway, I was very blessed. I was invited to come as a journalist, because I do my talk show, to attend this meeting, MEGA meeting, and to interview all of these leaders from countries all over Eastern Europe, which is very cool. They have their own set of issues, because they have been conquered and clobbered by communism more than we can even imagine. So these people, they know communism when they see it. They were fabulous. So I got to interview a bunch of them. My assistant Kristen came with me. I mean, wow, we could spend 3 hours telling how much fun it was, because Kristen had a red Make America Great hat on. I mean, people in the street were saying, oh, can I have that hat? Can I take a picture with that hat on? I mean, the vibrancy of what Trump, he's made people, that same feeling over there is, they don't want the EU controlling their countries. They want their national sovereignty back. They want their freedom back. They love Trump. Some of them went to the inauguration. They actually came to America. So that was a really great thing. And the point of saying all that is, what Trump is talking about is this return of respect for the individual freedom, not having a collectivist, tyrannical government running your life. I've often said about the founding of America, this idea that God has endowed each of us, inherently we have rights from God simply because we're born. That is an idea of universal appeal. They love it over there too. So that was a great thing. So this message of Trump and MEGA is going on and on. I've been putting some of those interviews up. On the sheet I handed out has our website. We're putting these interviews up all over social media. Just a really fun thing. And among the main things they use over there in talking about what's happening to their countries, they use the word wokeism. They can't stand it. They say things like, as blunt as this, we're not going to do climate change stuff anymore because climate change is communism. It's a hoax, it's communism, we're done. They don't want to negotiate about, well, maybe can we have 2 more years of driving cars with fossil fuels. They see it for what it is. And it's like that expression the Supreme Court said one time, they know it when they see it. They know communism. They see this immigration mess over there. They have a worse problem than we do. Immigration mess over there, climate change, all of this, they see it as an attack on their identity as a country. So I'm very enthused about that. I think it's about the universality of what Trump's ideas are. So I have some quick statistics I want to tell you about in terms of enticing people and believing in our party. Trump has brought people around, and always hesitate to say it's Trump because while it is Trump, it's the ideas he says so unapologetically, so boldly. But we had just a quick switch on vote, just what happened in our election cycle, which was so great. Let me get this one first, okay? In 2020, only 33% of, this is women between the ages of 18 and 29. In 2020, only 33% of women voted for Trump in that age group. In 2024, 40%. I mean, because that's only 7 points. That's a lot. That's women. And you think, so women, young women turn toward Trump. They're actually overall white women broke down evenly between Trump and whoever ran on the left, Harris. There are just tons of great statistics. And I say all that to say, we should feel ourselves, we Republicans should feel, we are on the we're in the upswing, we're surging because Americans of every age have seen how damaging the left is, how harmful they are, and what we stand for. And so, are the issues I think might appeal to younger people if you are doing events in your area trying to entice younger people. You know, I think no one likes to be lied to. It's just one good example. No one likes to be lied to, and this whole issue of, I can't go way down the weeds on it, but transgenderism is just one thing. So what issues bring young people to say, well, I'll come to a meeting and hear about that. I'd be interested in knowing about that. I think transgenderism is one thing. This is now being widely rejected, even by people, professionals, doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, to say to them, yeah, let's have it. I mean, I know you were earlier talking about your goals of growing the Republican voter base. Just telling people what we stand for versus what they stand for. We want to protect especially children. We don't want children taught in kindergarten that you can choose your gender. But I mean, drawing people into our clubs, our party, because of issues and where we stand and where the other guys stand. I think hanging transgenderism around their neck, this is a Democrat issue, it's lunatic, it's hurting children, we would never do that. We don't believe in that. I think those kind of issues are just that they are compelling and there's no good answer on the left. Well, we can talk about, I know we're going to have a Q&A, we can talk about more on the Q&A, but I think and actually the other big thing I think is going to help our party grow over the next 4 years is DOGE, you know, Department of Government Efficiency. Yeah, you're not kidding. If you're a young person working, and hopefully you're a young person, you are working, and you're finding out that just one example, right near the end of the Biden administration, they gave out, just when he knew he wasn't coming, or no Democrat was coming back in, just one example, $2 billion, B as in boy, $billion to Stacey Abrams, the candidate in Georgia for governor, who got it under a climate change category, gets $2 billion, just handing out like monopoly money, and she's still on television defending it, saying, oh, it was to help poor people get new appliances. Okay, she's buying votes, and this is out the door as Biden's leaving. It's not Biden, because he's not mentally well and not mentally collected, but his administration, handing out money, especially in the climate issue. I mean, those kind of things, I think they start to resonate, that what DOGE is uncovering is not just waste. It is waste, and it is abuse. It's corrupt. A lot of the money they're giving out ends up in their pockets, and there's just a need to say, this is who this party is. We have to hang that around their necks. That's who they are, that's what they did when they had power, and we're the ones honest enough to uncover it. We should not, I've heard some people on our side saying, you know, DOGE, they're moving too fast. They should slow down. Maybe Congress should oversee this. No. DOGE, you can't do this without exactly the way they're doing it. Move quickly, get it figured out, expose it, and then then move forward. This DOGE is it's like cleaning a house that no one cleaned for 100 years, and you can't go through each room and just demolish. That's the plan. So I think there's a boldness about this as these numbers keep coming out. Share them with your friends. I mean, among the many absurdities, I have lists I go through my show sometimes just for fun, but they have, for example, up to $10 million from US aid went to an Al-Qaeda-linked terrorist group. I mean, people who would kill Americans and Israelis. That went from Doge. $2 million for sex changes and LGBT activism in Guatemala. I mean, I could go on, I'm sure you've been all reading these, but these things should not be just, okay, we uncovered a little bit of corruption. This is treating the American Treasury like a piggy bank, sending out money for the most lunatic agenda items, and a lot of it ending up back in the pockets of the people handing it out. This is stuff I just think the American people, they've got to get the picture from all of us, that this is corruption beyond just poor decision making or a little bit sloppy bookkeeping. It's absolute vile corruption. Okay, last thing I was going to hit on, and then I think Robin's going to talk, and then we're doing Q&A. But I was going to, on the Texas legislature, so when I ran for RNC, on my talk show a lot, I talked about election integrity, and I said it was one of the main issues I really, really care about. On election integrity, I think you probably know, so there are many, many bills. In fact, okay, you guys probably know that, is it Andrew Eller, the SREC guy who heads up election integrity? He's got this massive chart of bills and, good, bad, what it does. The SREC is working very, very hard, the State Republican Executive Committee, focusing on these issues, figuring out the good bills, the bad bills. So many bills get piled on at one time, it's very hard. So I will just tell you as a kind of 10,000 foot level, election integrity in this country is a systemic problem. Yes. It is not a few graveyard votes, it's systemic, it's proven, the data are there, I present at my show and many other places. It's overwhelming, and so there have to be steps to correct it. And within the legislature, you have many efforts by the Republicans to do some things. Shall we get this thing up? I'll tell you something that Pete Sessions is doing. 1 sec here. Yeah. Okay. But back to the Texas legislature, just as an example of how whatever you guys think about the speaker's race, whatever you think about the House rules, I have my opinions, but you probably do too, but where we are is we have a Republican majority in the Texas State House and Senate, and we need to all keep pressure on the Texas legislators to say, we want these things passed, we want these things killed. I'll just tell you as one example, the Election Integrity Committee, the Democrat vice chair, his name is Busey, B-U-C-Y. He's the author of many election integrity bills right here. Okay, if he's your neighbor, okay, I'm not saying bad things, he might be a nice guy, I don't know. But he has a bill, Busey has a bill that's impending this legislative cycle that says you should be able to register to vote on the day of election. Like you show up on election day and say, hey, I think I'll register. I mean, this is the things that the left is proposing, the Democrats are proposing. Almost every, because I started to review this list, they're all things, you ask any election integrity expert, you should never do these things, and these are things that Democrats are pushing. This registered day of, it's all sorts of things about alternative IDs that you can show up and use. There are just a whole host of bills that the Democrats are proposing, and this is a good example, going back to Trump's attitude. We cannot say, well, let's give the legislators, we'll get some of our election integrity bills, and we'll give the Democrats some of theirs. No, none of their bills are any good. We don't need them, and with a Republican majority, we shouldn't even humor them. And I think if every one of us contacts our own state legislator and says, I really hate this bill, I sure hope you're going to vote against it, I know what it is, we're watching, I think it will put pressure on them, even though the whole situation is the way it is in Austin. I'll just leave it at that. I think we have to count on and have an attitude, expectation of our Republican majority to do the right thing on election integrity and not do the wrong things. There are many, many bad bills pending that need to be just, trash heaped to history, and there are good bills to move forward. And I'm only about 1 minute left, so I want to tell you one other thing happening at the federal level. So Pete Sessions, Congressman Sessions, has a bill. It's not introduced yet, but he's been working on it with, actually some people I know, working on it to try to get election integrity at the federal level. And they actually ran an article on Gateway Pundit with I believe his cooperation. I just want to tell you what he's got in the bill. These are these are just basic, I love all these ideas. Hand-marked and hand-counted paper ballots. Pete Sessions, I know, you have to have these things, have to. He's also got voter ID and citizenship requirements. And to think how crazy it is, we have to argue about whether or not someone should have to show an ID or prove their citizenship. It's just crazy. Shortened early voting. His bill says, so election day is on a Tuesday, so early voting is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, or Saturday, Sunday, Monday. 3 or 4 days, no break up to election day. That's what he's got there. Very, very limiting mail-in ballots. No, you can't. You have to have a specific and very narrow set of reasons that you're justified in doing that. He also is pushing this huge issue. I am so immersed in election integrity because it changes everything. It changes everything. So this one, if you don't know why this would be pushed, it is paper elections and small precincts. Part of what happens in larger and larger precincts, let me just say it the other way. The way to keep things more under control, more likely to be consistent, honest, is small precincts, voting in smaller areas, not massive countywide voting. I'm about out of my time. I'll say one more thing, election integrity, and then pass this off to Robin. But the other big thing, and I've had several experts on my show talking about this idea, is we have voter rolls that are in every state, and some people clean out voter rolls more than others, some don't seem to do it at all. In any case, actually the people I have on my show say the single biggest problem we have is a large number of voters whose names are in the rolls, and they are deceased, moved out of state, haven't voted since Nixon or whatever. They're names of people who aren't valid voters. Because their names exist in the voter roll records, they are used for stealing elections. They're used by electronic manipulation of voter tabulation software. They're used by mail-in ballots. The whole point being, I think, and I don't think Pete Sessions got to this point, we don't just have to re-register to vote every 4 years. And there's a bill in the Texas State House, Andy Hopper has, why is that lady here? We have a bill in the Texas State House, Andy Hopper has a bill saying, yeah, you have to re-register every 4 years. So I think we're going to go, you're going to talk, Robin's going to go, we're staying for questions. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie Georgatos. And she passed out her handout there, so be sure to sign on to her newsletter and watch her. So next is Dr. Robin Armstrong. He hails from Galveston County. He needs no introduction. He's been our RMC for quite some time, and thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you very much.
All right, you got the shining light on the forehead picture there. So some housekeeping items. I really want to order this. So whoever this belongs to, can y'all tell me where you got that from? That's one thing. And then the second thing is, where's the dressmaker? Where are you? There you are, right there. So yes, I want to order a dress for my wife. She has a nice Texas dress that one of the SRACs made. So I want to order one. I will pay for it. I will please.
I've got a label that's Cowboy Girl Designs by Sandy Bush, but I totally sold for fun. And I made a dress up here in Marshall.
Yeah, she made a dress for one of the SRAC members, and I liked it. I think I want to get the right one. So.
She's got one.
Wow. Very good. So I'm excited. I'll talk to you later. And so it's an honor to be here in Williamson County. I love Williamson County, and so you guys are very important to the state of Texas. So just remember that. I mean, y'all got to keep winning and winning and winning. And so yeah, it's an honor to be here. This is my family. This one right here. I just have to tell you, this one right here is 14. And he is probably about as tall as I am now. So they grow really fast. So he's like 6'2", the 14-year-old. And so they're all, everybody's growing up and getting bigger than me. Everybody's bigger than mom there. So we've been married 27 years, and I have 4 boys. And so Daniel, Gabriel, Joshua, and Noah. So Daniel's 22. He's on the far end. He's the oldest. He's at UT Arlington. He's running track and playing an aerospace engineering major. And then the one on the other end, the one in the sort of brown, tan, orange, is that orange? Orange, gold sweater, that's Gabriel. And so he's 20, he's an economics major. The one next to him in the green sweater is Joshua, he is 16. And then Noah is now 14. And my wife is 29. I'm in my 50s, I married young, so she's not really 29. And the dog there is Rusty. Rusty's doing well too, so it is an honor to be here. I didn't know you were going to show that picture, but since you had it up there, I figured I would just talk about it. And so yeah, this is an exciting time right now, guys, very exciting time. I believe in American history. I think that we have opportunities today that really I haven't seen in my lifetime, and I think that we should be really, really excited. I think that's why a lot of young people are pretty excited. You know, Trump calls it a golden age, you know, and so Trump really, you know, he's sort of intuitively, he's funny because I've been in the Oval Office, I've gotten to speak with Trump in the Roosevelt Room, which is a room right outside of the Oval Office, talking about healthcare stuff, and he is really, really funny. He's just naturally funny. I mean, he just jokes around. He's very confident. He's very at ease within himself, you know? And you just feel that when you're around him, you know? He took us into the Oval Office, and, you know, J.D. Vance, his first time, and Trump mentioned this was back in 2017, his first term. J.D. Vance mentioned this recently, that the first time J.D. Vance has ever been in the Oval Office was when he became vice president. He was elected vice president, and then Trump took him. But Trump is so laid back. He just would bring people into the White House, into the people's house, and it just sort of his mindset. And I'll tell you, his family's the same way. I've gotten to know Laura Trump and Eric Trump, and they're just. And I've been to some meetings with Don Jr. And the folks they're just unassuming. They're just nice people, you know. And so what you see on TV is kind of what you get. They're nice people, just laid back, and they're just easy to get along with. And so it's nice because Democrats are not that way at all. You know? I've never been around Barack Obama, but I hear personally he's just not a very nice guy. Not very interactive, not very nice, and Biden, you know Biden, can't say much about him, but he's, you know, they're just not nice people. They're generally not nice people. They're very arrogant to the staff that they have. They're arrogant to the military personnel there. They treat them with disdain and disrespect, and that's just kind of how they are. And it's really horrible, but anyway. But Trump innately understands America. He understands American exceptionalism. He understands that America is a great nation. I don't necessarily think that Trump is an ideologue politically. He's not an ideological conservative, but he's just sort of a free-flowing natural conservative. He's more conservative than a lot of conservative ideologues are, you know, right? But he's doing things that are extremely conservative, but he just eases into it. He sort of innately knows it and just feels it. He does a lot of things by instinct, but he's like an instinctive conservative. He just is doing the right stuff. You know what I mean? And he's pushing all the right stuff instinctively. And I think that's really cool because it's sort of just a part of who he is. And it's really cool. I really believe that America is great because America is good. I don't know who said that. I tried to look up who said that, but some famous person said that. But I really believe that's true. What makes us good is really our Judeo-Christian values upon which this nation is founded upon. That's where our goodness comes from, I believe. And you know, words like honor, integrity, strength, you know, we're a powerful nation, we're a benevolent nation, a generous nation, a very caring nation. I believe that those are all words that can be used to describe this country. We should be so proud of the country that we live in. You know, we should just ooze patriotism just because it should just be easy. And the left has tried to beat that out of us. They really try to beat it out of us all the time. And if you're, I mean, I'd imagine there's not many of you in here who listen to sort of black radio, African American radio. you want to, it will try to beat patriotism out of you completely. I mean, if you listen to it, you will not even understand. You will be like, what are they talking about? I mean, you'll hear negativity and how bad things are and how racist things are. I mean, you'll hear that a lot. And so you'll understand why a lot of the community feels the way that they do, because they're just fed this and fed this and fed this all the time, all this negativity. And so I'll tell you, I look back at some of the great crises that we've had in this nation. In the Civil War, 640,000 people died, mostly to end slavery. I mean, we fought that war, for a lot of reasons, but slavery was the predominant reason. And we've suffered a lot, for the sins, for our nation's sins. But man, we've become the greatest, most tolerant, most caring, most diverse nation. We are the least racist nation in the entire world. That is absolutely true. And my wife drags me all around the world, kicking and screaming. Just kidding. I like to travel too. She drags me all over the world. We travel a lot. We take the boys out a lot. And I'm telling you, we are the least racist nation in the entire world. That is absolutely true. And the most generous nation. I've been to Africa a couple of times, and there's a big sign that says, this road was paved by the generosity of the people of the United States of America. There's big signs that read that. And so people understand that, and everyone wants to come to America. Everyone wants to come here. I was in a Somali refugee camp, and there were people looking for sponsors to come to America. And so this is such a bad, racist, mean place, but everyone in the world, I'm telling you, everyone in the world wants to come to America. We live in a great nation. As an African American, I feel like I've gotten so many opportunities in this country. It's just amazing. I went to Texas A&M University, the best college in the entire world, and it's just, and so I'll say it's just been a blessing. I went to medical school at this medical branch at Galveston. I think it's called UT, but it's whatever. But they taught me medicine. I mean, they didn't teach me any values. They taught me medicine. So I learned those all at A&M, right? But we have a cancer in this nation. I was talking about it a little earlier, and it really is the radical, amoral Democrat Party. I mean, it really is a cancer in this nation today. Their goals are to get God out of public life, destroy the nuclear family. I mean, they have this as a goal. Probably, the regular run-of-the-mill Democrat on the ground doesn't know this, but their leadership certainly has that as a goal. Destroy the nuclear family. I mean, they want to remove God, remove our international borders. It's amazing the things they want to do really, really work. They really want to work to destroy this nation. Talk about radical environmentalism. I know that Debbie was talking about the Eastern European bloc nations, and I can remember when, to this day, when the very brutal dictator Nicholas Ceausescu died, and I can remember they pulled his statue down, and they just executed him right on the street. And I can remember the scripture that says, when the righteous prosper, the city rejoices. When the wicked perish, there are shouts of joy. That's exactly what was happening. Eastern Europe is going to be the new beacon of freedom and liberty, I believe, in the world, And the cool thing about it is that, I'm going to talk a little bit later as well, that I believe that not only, because Eastern Europe knows what communism is. They've lived under it, they've experienced it, they were beaten down by it, and so they know what it is, they recognize it. They recognize radical environmentalism as a Bolshevik tactic to redistribute wealth. I mean, the people who are in Eastern Bloc countries, they recognize that, so they're not, subject to, climate change, and, it's global warming. Remember, it was global warming until the Earth started cooling, and then it became climate change, and so they had to change the name, and So they'll never have to change that name, right? Because the climate will always change. So they wised up and they said, let's just call it climate change, you know, and that way we won't have to change the name again. Radical environmentalism, that's what they're pushing. You know, crime and drug abuse, allowing drugs and fentanyl into our country. You know, everyone has a friend who has a loved one or a child or someone who's died of fentanyl poisoning who was not actually trying to kill themselves. They were just trying to, you know, relieve some anxiety or something. They've got something laced, and so they're getting, you know, drugs and drug abuse and all that craziness that's going on right now. You know, confiscating our guns. The Democrat is for all this stuff. You know, if you had if you wanted to, you know, build a list that said, you know, these are the things I want to do to destroy the nation, you know, and then you would list the Democrat Party platform, because those are the things you would do to destroy a nation. And so you look at our big cities today, and if you don't have to argue with Democrats at all about their policies. Just say, look, Democrats run every big city in this country. And so, do you live in the big city? No. Why is that? No one wants to live in the big city because of crime, because of corruption, because of all the things that you see. You know, you have Democrat mayors, Democrat police chiefs, you got Democrats controlling everything. And so no one wants to live there because it's exactly what they want it to be. It's a way that they transfer money to one another. Certainly Doge needs to go into every city. You know, it would be amazing. You know, they just came out. I was driving here today, and I was listening to Michael Berry. He said the city of Houston is $300 million in debt. I mean, come on. The city of Houston. And that money's all going to friends and family, you know. I know Sylvester Turner just passed away. The money went to friends and family, you know, just like the Biden corruption scheme. And so we talk about the medical industrial complex, and we were talking about COVID earlier today, and how the left used COVID to really infringe on all of our rights. And so I'm a physician as well, and so I saw that. You know, I saw a combination of a pandemic where people were afraid they're going to die, and well, I'll tell you, there's nothing that motivates people to shut down their churches, you know, shut down their business, you know, shut down their schools. There's nothing that motivates people more to do that than telling them they're going to die if they go out. You know what I mean? And so fear. You know, there's a scripture that I talk about a lot. It says, God's not given us a spirit of fear, but a power of love and a sound mind. If we make decisions based on fear, we will make a wrong decision. And so it is so important that we not make decisions based on fear. But we did that during the pandemic, and I think a lot of conservatives were guilty of that as well. A lot of Republicans certainly were guilty of making decisions based on fear. We changed election laws. We changed the great assault on our freedom. We shut down our houses of worship, shut down our assembly places, you know, shut down people from work, took our kids out of school, which has huge ramifications for the future. All these things happen. And so, you know, today, with our bureaucracy, and with all the power that we've given to our government, there's a soft totalitarianism today. We're experiencing that today. And so there's a totalitarianism for sure. It's a soft totalitarianism, and it's infiltrated our nation, where now we have folks who, you know, the government doesn't necessarily have to say you can't say something, but what they do is they cause you to self-censor, right? They say, well, if you say something negative then about this or that group or person, then we're going to put you in jail. You may lose your job. You may lose your church, you know? And so they tell you that, so you self-censor, and that's what they did with us during COVID. This was the first time that I really had ever experienced pressure as an American. You know, pressure that I might lose something. And so, you know, they were telling us what to say, what not to say, telling us this, and I was investigated by the Texas Medical Board because we treated people with drugs that actually worked and been proven to work now, but at the time they were saying it was, you shouldn't do this, it's not standard of care. And so I was investigated, they threatened my license, they were gonna take my livelihood away, and so we just said, well, they tried to make me get the vaccine and all this stuff, all of this, and I like, well, I'm just gonna do what's right, put my head down and hunker down, pray, and do the right thing. And so the first time that I really felt pressure that I might lose something, that's a good feeling. It's not a good feeling. It's not a good feeling. It's a very scary feeling, but it's a necessary feeling that we all need to have. I believe that we as conservatives have become very, very comfortable in our prosperity. And Donald Trump, God bless him, it has not become comfortable in his prosperity, right? I mean, he has really taken a lot. He's been sued, he's been shot, people have tried to shoot him. He has really, really not been comfortable, even though he's very prosperous, because he loves this nation. And I think we as Americans have become very comfortable in our prosperity, and that's a very dangerous, dangerous place to be as Americans. We have got to press forward. We cannot expect Donald Trump to save this country by himself. He needs all of us to be engaged now like never before. Be ready to fight, be ready to stand, and be willing to take a stand. That is so important. This guy right here, Jeremy Story, I mean, he might be pastoring a church or pastoring a prison. I don't know. He takes a stand. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't pray for Jeremy to end up in jail. If he goes to jail, he'll just preach in jail. But he takes a stand. We all have to be willing to take that stand. That is so, so important. Ephesians 6:13 says, therefore, take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand. We have to be willing to take that stand. And I'm telling you, because the Democratic Party is not going to go away. They're painting over the Black Lives Matter mural in Washington, D.C. now, and they're not even making a big fuss about it. They're just painting over it. The crazy governor of California, Gavin Newsom, he said on the podcast the other day, well, yeah, it's not fair that men compete in women's sports. He said that, but who thinks he's going to change his ways? Who thinks that he's saying that only for political reasons, so that he can run in the future and then win and then put all of his crazy radical policies in place? Who actually believes that? Who believes that Black Lives Matter? It's just going to, they interviewed some folks in D.C. and the folks, some African Americans in D.C., and they said, yeah, well, we're not too concerned about Black Lives Matter. We're about economic empowerment now. We're about economic empowerment. There have been some negative things and negative publicity about the Black Lives Matter people living in lavish, owning many, many homes and doing all this, negative stuff. And so they got some negative publicity, so now they've sort of thrown them aside right now. And so, but who believes that that's not going to crop up again? They're going to fight back, because I'm telling you, they believe what they believe. In fact, some of them believe in what they believe in a lot more than some of us believe in what we believe in. We have got to be ready to stand and fight. President Trump has taken this fight to make America great again. Talked about Doge. Doge is huge. It's huge because that's a Democrat slush fund is what that is. That money's been funneled to Democrats. That's how they win so many elections, because they've got billions of dollars. Planned Parenthood still gets hundreds of millions of dollars from the federal government, which should not happen. I can't understand why that's still happening, but it has, and it still is today. But hopefully Doge will deal with that. Hugely important. The bureaucracy is what's enslaving us, and that's what I found in my time in COVID, is that it's the bureaucracy that will enslave us. Closing the border. I mean, Trump has completely shut the border down. That is absolutely amazing. I mean, so that's an indictment against every Democrat and every Republican presidency in my lifetime. that he was able to just come in and just shut the border down like this. Remember, that's not supposed to happen without legislation, right? Our border's closed today. Thank the Lord. He's bringing manufacturing jobs back into the country, removing diversity, equity, and inclusion. You know, how many of you think our pilots should be competent? You know, Debbie flew here today, you know. She really wants a competent pilot flying back to Dallas again. I pray that she has one. Working to get rid of the Department of Education. If Donald Trump can get rid of the Department of Education, then he might move past Reagan. Okay? He will move it. If he's able to do that, and I'll tell you, I'm going to be like, Trump, he is the man. He is the man today for sure. But he will go past Reagan if he gets rid of the Department of Education. Remaking the Justice Department and the FBI. Ending anti-Semitism on campuses, really cracking down on that now. In these liberal universities are losing a lot of their funding if they don't stand for what's right. Israel, Hamas, Hezbollah conflict, you know, working in that, doing great things. Ukraine and Russia, we have to help him succeed. The way we do that in Williamson County, folks, is we have to have an aggressive push forward on conservative values. Trump has given us a huge opportunity to bring in people he's brought in people who have not traditionally voted Republican. That is exactly how we talked earlier about you know, Trump winning Williamson County, but Ted Cruz not winning Williamson County. The point is that Trump brings in a lot of voters that are not traditional Republican voters. We have got to go and win those folks and convince them that they should be conservative voters, because they certainly are. We've got to push God, family, community, and country everywhere we go. Republican National Committee, I've got like 5 minutes, I think, and so I'm going to run through a lot of stuff really fast. Republican National Committees, our chair and co-chair are working with us. 168 members of that body. We have a 50-state strategy to win. I am the chair of faith engagement on the Republican National Committee, so we are doing things to engage people all over the country. We have a faith call that we do every Tuesday evening, and so it is going to be, we're really trying to engage faith voters. I believe that is one way that we can have a permanent Republican majority. If you want to do that in Williamson County, the way you do it is you go to churches, conservative churches that you know everybody's conservative. I'm telling you, half of them are not voting. Half of them are not voting. We look at that statistically. We see a lot of very conservative churches, like Southern Baptist churches, you know, and the statistics show it, that many of them are not even registered to vote. We have got to get those folks registered to vote. If that's how you want to have an impact in Williamson County, go to those churches. They might yell at you. They may say, get out of here, we don't want to lose our 501c3 status, but you have to educate them, gently educate them, meet someone in their congregation and tell them, listen, we have to get folks out to vote because we have to save our nation. That's one way we can build a permanent Republican majority. Legislative priorities, I'm telling you, the SRAC has great legislative priorities that they're working on, and border enforcement, secure Texas elections, stopping sexualizing kids, Texas kids, no Democrat chairs, ban taxpayer-funded lobbying, secure electric grid, Texas is not for sale, end federal overreach. Those are the legislative priorities. You can go on the RPT website and see those. Texas is extremely important nationally. We have 40 electoral votes, and we're the biggest Republican state. If we ever lose Texas, then we'll never elect a Republican president again. Got to win Texas, and we have some redistricting efforts that we're working on right now as well in Texas, opportunities, because we won a lawsuit in Galveston County actually that allows us to redistrict. We can redraw districts and we can win 5 more congressional seats for the president. In 2026, we can do that right now in the legislature. That's a big deal. We are trying to encourage them to do that, okay? We can win a lot of state rep seats anyway. But we don't talk about that too much because they might have a seizure. And so we're just trying to get the congressional district seats right now. Jeremy understands completely. So we don't want our legislators to have a seizure. We want them to redistrict those congressional seats so we can give Trump more seats. I will tell you, I'm going to finish up a little story about the guy. I talk about this. about the Gettysburg Address. There's a gentleman named Rabbi, is a rabbi in the probably 1864. He actually was given 1863. It's written right here if I just read my notes. And so he gave a speech after the Battle of Gettysburg. The Battle of Gettysburg in the Civil War was a very brutal war where many, many people lost their lives. I think they say there were 50,000 casualties injured, 10,000 lost their lives in that battle. There's this battle, men all over the field, dead. And so this rabbi gave a speech a few weeks after that, and he gave his speech. He said 7 years ago. He talked about this nation was founded 7 years ago, and he based that on Psalm 90:10, which talks about the days of our lives. And so in Psalm 90, not the soap opera, you guys don't go there. Some of your minds went there, and so that's not what I was talking about. But Psalm 90:10 says, "The days of our years are 70, and if by reason of strength they may be 80 years." And so he's saying the days of our lives are 70 and 10. At this time, our nation was 87 years old. So he was saying, and this scripture is talking about the finality of man. That man is going to die. His end is 70, 80 years, and then he dies, and we fly away and we go to heaven. That's what he's talking about. And he's saying this, right, after this very deadly battle in the Civil War. And he's saying our nation's 87 years old, and so it may be time for our nation to end. We've been alive 87 years, we've been a nation for 87 years. Maybe it's time maybe it's over. And you can see why he would think that, because of this great Civil War that we're in the midst of. But a man named Abraham Lincoln comes back a few months later, and he gives the Gettysburg Address, and he uses that same phrase. He says, 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. He goes through the entire Gettysburg Address, and because I'm out of town, I won't read the whole thing to you. I usually will read the whole thing. But at the end of it, he says that these honored dead, from these honored dead, we take increased devotion to that cause which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the first face of the earth. And so Abraham Lincoln said that. So he used Psalm 90:10, saying maybe this is an opportunity for a new birth of freedom. And I want to encourage you that yes, I believe that the Eastern Europe bloc countries, they know what communism is, and that is a new birthplace of freedom. But because of Donald Trump, and because of his leadership, we have an opportunity here in America to see a new birth of freedom as well. But it's only going to happen if we fight, and if we stand, and if we get a little bit uncomfortable in our walk, a little bit uncomfortable in what we talk about to people, a little bit uncomfortable. Don't be back on our heels when people call us names. Just walk forward and be confident and strong, because remember that you're right. Conservatives are right. And we have right on our side, and we are going to win. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you all. How about another hand for Robin and Mary? We did factor in some time for some questions, some Q&A. If you all have questions, we'll invite you both back up here to answer those questions. And after questions, I want to give them a little gift, and then we're going to do a drawing. So if you did not receive a drawing, a ticket when you walked in, here's some water for you, Robin. Be sure to go back to the back and get a ticket so that you can be in the little bucket here. Bring us the other piece of it. And who here has a question? Okay, I'm going to bring the mic back here real quick, because we are recording, and I would love for you to be heard. So, Mr. Buell, we'll let you go first.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Do you have any advice on how to cope with a person with trunk derangement syndrome? Particularly family members. That's one of my personal challenges right now. It would sure be nice to recruit something from the other side, because most of the people I know are pretty much like me and don't need to be convinced.
I will tell you that, well, so what I do personally, and I have a lot of family members who have Trump derangement syndrome. I will tell you what happens is they respect me and the way I walk and the way I care, provide for them and care for them and provide for my family. And so I really don't have to talk to them about it. And so with family members, I just choose to not engage in that conversation. Because family is just too close. And so I will argue with anybody, but family is close. And so I would say, love your family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Honor your family and bless your family, and they will come around. That's what's happened in my family. I'll tell you, my mom, it was a really strong Democrat. She has come around over time, and that's what I tell people. I have a good friend who fights with his family all the time, and I said, don't fight with your family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just, you just love your family, serve your family, enjoy your holidays, and bless them and pray over them and all that, and they will come around. God will bring those minds around. Sometimes you just can't crack that nut,
It just takes patience.
It just takes patience.
Thank you, Jim.
That's my advice, really.
I would add one thing to that. I agree that if people are really mad about Trump, you can just say, I don't really want to talk about him. But if they're mad because, well, he's doing this or that, you can just say, here's how I see it. Not defending Trump, but I think you have to have a border, and you can't have 20 million illegal aliens living in America. It's a danger. So try to get something that I think is true. They would say, well, we disagree with him, but this is what I think is true about that policy. And sometimes, and I agree, you can't argue with someone out of crazy.
Yeah.
And I will talk policy too. Yeah. Policy, everyone agrees with us.
Yeah.
The most rabid Democrat agrees with us on policy.
Yeah.
And the most aggressive anti-Trump African American agrees with us on the border.
Yeah.
Generally, they agree with us on abortion.
Crime.
Generally, they agree with us on crime. So they actually agree with us on policy. Just say, let's don't talk about Trump, let's talk about policy, and you'll be in agreement on all those issues. And they'll tell you.
Ask these people which one of Trump's policies you particularly dislike. And I've never gotten an answer.
Right.
Oh,
exactly. And there's a reason for it, because they probably agree with them all.
Well, either that or they don't know it.
Yeah.
Okay, next question.
Thank you.
I'll tell you, these radio programs are really caustic. So what people are listening to, it is the most vile, mean, they say some of the worst things about Trump. So they're listening to that all day. You know what I mean? So it really has an impact too, in the black community anyway.
Yeah.
They're probably listening to some of the same stuff. Yes, sir.
So President Trump signed, God bless him, a lot of executive orders coming right out of the gate. But he also did that in 2016, and Biden summarily reversed those executive orders when he got into office. So my question is, are our elected congressmen on the GOP side and senators focused on memorializing those executive orders when it seems like they can't even get their stuff in one bag to get a CR passed, never mind memorializing those executive orders going forward?
I think it kind of answered your question of what you said, but it's exactly right. We had Trump's orders in 16, and then Biden reverses them, and then Trump reverses Biden. So what they're doing,
So what they're doing has to be, what Trump is doing, his orders has to be memorialized by Congress. It's another thing, if you're activists at all, talking to your congressman, if the simple ones, can you make this part of the law? And I think when Trump's first term, he was so out of the box, unusual, and many Republicans in Congress couldn't figure out, do I want to get behind this guy? He's so different. And I think this time, given the mandate I believe he got, and the people in Congress watching that the American people got behind Trump, I think they might be more amenable this time. It is a mess in Congress. The House passed that resolution, the budget, and the Senate is working on trying to change it. And so they're up, they're really having struggles. But I agree, pressing Congress to make these changes into federal law to the extent possible, especially the border things, it seems like job number one for them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. I'm going to be honest with you. I am uneasy with all these executive orders, honestly, but I like the result of them now, but I certainly may not like the result of them with a Democrat administration. And so I think ultimately, I would love to have that whole power reined in after this presidency.
And the other thing to add to that, though, is as Trump is trying to reduce the size of the federal agencies, the whole bureaucratic state, part of what he's doing in executive orders is really getting after things that agencies did that weren't even passed by Congress. They were just agency policies. So hopefully those agencies get pared down and limited in their jurisdiction. That'd be great.
We have another question over here. Mr. Bill?
Back to the Doge and also codifying its actions, but how do we also make it more effective, getting our agencies under control? Just a couple of quick examples. If you go to Form 4136, IRS form, it cuts out a special category of credits for first home buyers in the District of Columbia, a very specific one. If you go to the USDA, is another group you can get rid of. Every 4 years they send me a 26-page questionnaire to get all the details about my farming operations. And so far I haven't complied because I throw the Constitution at them. But how do we codify some of these activities to rein in agencies?
Well, I think it has to be done by Congress for sure. I mean, a lot of this stuff has to be codified in Congress, number one, and then I also think that it's just I think at some point we just have to say we will not comply. You know what I mean? I mean, I think that's another way. I think they're going to pare back a lot of them because I think you shut them down. You take the money away, and I think that the only way to control the bureaucracy is to defund it. That's the only way, and you really can't manage it well because it will grow and become bigger and bigger. Ronald Reagan said, "Where governments expands, liberty contracts." And so even good government, right? Even government that we think is working well, if it gets bigger and bigger, what's going to happen is our liberties and our freedoms are going to get smaller and smaller. I think you have to just defund it, and I think that's a lot of what they're trying to do to make that permanent, defunding it, and then there's going to be a lot more freedom and liberty. But codifying it has to be through Congress, and I think at some level we as Americans have to say, I'm not going to do that. I don't care what the consequences are. And I think that's when you really start seeing a lot of change as well.
Trump said recently, maybe it was at that speech, he said for every new one regulation, he was going to require them to pull back 10 of them, to eliminate 10 of them. He's just saying, because it is the tendency of bureaucrats that have power. They just want to make one more rule, one more refinement. And the other thing, there's a great organization, his name's eluding me, but they come up with one suggestion, which was, why doesn't it become law that says for any regulation an agency wants to put in place that will cost more than X dollars in the American economy, it has to be passed by Congress or by 2/3 of Congress. Put the power of making onerous regulations back so Congress is responsible, because that's why they don't want to do it. They are actually, members of Congress feel great about the idea. All these agencies, it's not my problem. I mean, I didn't mean the EPA, it wasn't me. Put it back on Congress. I love that thought too.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? One more question. Oh, Claire, a founder. We're going to go to a founder. Founders get first preference, by the way. Mr. Bill's a founder. Mr. Bill is a founder.
Thank you, Marcia. My question is going back to the Texas House recently. I think it was Mitch Little who announced on Steve Bannon's War Room last week that there was a deal made in the House to trade votes for school choice for gambling. And I'm wondering if you have any predictions or comments on that.
So, briefly, since she raised her hand, so briefly, I think that I haven't heard about that deal, and and so I'll tell you the school choice has passed the Senate. I do know that that version, the version that's gonna come out of the House is not gonna be anything like what came out of the Senate, is what I understand. And so, there's a little animosity between the bodies, as you probably know. And so that's gonna have to be reconciled, and so I have not heard about that deal. I have heard that, I think you mentioned it to me on the way here, but I had not heard of that before. And so, but I'll tell you, that's gonna be a, yeah.
It's a bombshell.
We will certainly be, well, I shouldn't say we, I say I will certainly be fighting against gambling in the state of Texas. I will be fighting against that. So, if they need the votes, if they're gonna pass that, to get the votes for school choice, then they may both go down, because I think I will resist, and I have, as far as the party's platform, and I've spoken out against it. So I will stand against that for sure personally, and I'm certain that Debbie will as well. So doesn't look good for school choice if that's the case.
Correct.
I thought it was actually really telling that Mitch Little actually said that on Steve Bannon, because I think a lot of deals like that happen behind the scenes, and everyone is members of, yeah, okay, this is kind of the deal. The fact that he said it publicly, that supposedly this is the deal, it means this is a helpful thing to the voters of Texas, because if that is spread around, and so your message to your state rep is, I don't mind school choice so much, whatever you think about school choice, I don't want gambling, I think it's helpful that people know. And I would be against, if you have to accept gambling to get school choice, and no on both. And I think the school choice bills become really complex. It won't be surprising if they can't get to a deal. It's become really complex and could have been much simpler. So, but I love that he said that. I think that's bravery, yeah.
Thank you.
That's a big deal. It's a big deal. I'll tell you, I think that I am not naive at all. I know that there are lots of very powerful forces on Democrat and Republican sides who wants gambling. I know that for sure. For many, many years, that's been the case. We've been able to push back successfly for a very long time, but yeah. So there'll be a big fight. It'll be unfortunate, because we'll fight against it for sure. Thank you.
Okay, you guys, we're gonna end here. We want to thank our speakers with a wonderful little gift here. Need the people, show it off for them, Debbie. I know you drink coffees, and this is a big coffee cup.